All right, boys and girls. I'm doing a video on building for draft leagues, specifically with regard to EVs. So, EVs are really important and they're often really misunderstood. EVs and natures. Like when you're building a team, like this team, like what do you put in these little values? Like, what do you put here, 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 here? Do you do just 252, 252, and 4, and then put a plus sign next to the number you want to make bigger? Is that the best strategy? Um, is the best strategy some eclectic mix that has 188 and 52 and 252? Just why are there all these fours here? What's up with this spread? 92, 252, 152, 12. Like, did you just pick random numbers? Did you just slide it until you found it? And um, why are you selecting the natures? Like, do you always choose adamant, timid, modest, or jolly? Like, or brave for slow Pokemon? Like, what's the deal here? So, we're going to do a little talk about natures and EVs, but we're going to unfortunately have to look at one of the most infamous matches in my Discord League's history. And this is game two of semifinals, UDL4, me versus a very, very talented player called Jay. Jay already smoked me round one, or game one of this best of three. And so, I'm realizing I did not prepare well enough. I'm in trouble playing to my outs. And so I'm paralyzing everything he's got and just hoping that this is good enough. Here we go. And why did he have to Sacred Fire? Why couldn't he have snarled my Galarian Articuno? That would have been wonderful. So here comes Luxray. Did not do very good for him there. And oh my gosh. Oh, but I survive. There's Wicked Blow. And unfortunately, I went with Dual Wing Beat. This is my cat, very clever tech. I wish I'd used Hurricane there. That would have done a lot more damage. Here we go, Superpower down to Focus Sash. And you're like, this is all pretty, boring and unimportant, obviously. Gonna do a lot of damage. Then turns out, freaking A, I didn't even need to, that was, I was like, I didn't even need to have Dual Wing Beat because he wasn't even Focus Sash on Whimsicott. So, anyway, so now we get to the thing, and it's like, man, it's 3-1, but look at this. This is a Galarian Moltres. So he has a spread attack. So these two guys are not long for this world, and he's got Tailwind set up. I cannot stall out that Tailwind, so it's going to be down to Regidrago in the back. And I do not have Draco Meteor on this set because I needed Protect, I needed Dragon Pulse, Dragon Energy, and then, and obviously in retrospect, Draco Meteor would have been really nice. So I say, how much bulk you got? And it turns out that this was his spread. 252 HP, 252 special attack, modest, 4 defense. And my spread was not this, but I knew I invested some speed. I wasn't max speed. And I don't remember where exactly the rest of my EVs were. I don't have access to that team anymore, but I was very much max modest. So made a fairly big difference. Okay. So then we get to this. Now watch this. He's at 88. So he does this into Protect. I do this to stall out Tailwind. He does 46 damage, which at first I'm like, ooh, that's a roll. That's a roll. Because if he, obviously I avoid a flinch, which is lucky there. And so I'm like, well, that's a roll. But then, of course, my Dragon Pulse takes him into Berserk. So the next one will definitely kill me. If you'll notice, this does 52%. 52%. So next turn I should outspeed, and there we go, and I'm going to knock it out. And I knew I was faster outside of Tailwind, which is why I bothered protecting. I knew that from game one. he goes down there, and I'm like, this is GG. I win. I'm so excited. If he was anything but citrus berry, I won. But he was citrus. If he was even a bulky berry, he wouldn't have procced it because he was at 36. But there we go. And he's at 60%. When it says 60%, by the way, that is rounded. Obviously, there's no decimal points here in the percentages. So Tailwind's over. Like, and as you see there, look at this. Let's watch this again. Tailwind's over, and Dragon Pulse one shots. I said GG before that because I thought there is no way I'm doing this. I knew Dragon Pulse would be stronger than Dragon Energy, which it was. You weren't supposed to be a berry. GG. And then when the replay was saved, like our conversation after this was cut off because he did not expect to get taken out from 60%. I didn't expect it either. I said GG thinking like, oh, my season's over. Turns out it wasn't. And Reggie Drago pulls it out for me. I got pretty lucky. The next game ended up winning that game and eliminated him from playoffs. Dragon Pulse at a maximum does 118 damage. He had exactly 118 HP. If I had been not even just the tiniest bit shy, all it would have taken was 2 points less of special attack, and I don't hit that range, and I can't knock him out. What's worse, he had 252 HP, 252 special attack, 4 defense. And if you put that extra 4 in special defense instead of physical defense, look at that. Max roll is 117. He survives with literally 1 HP, and he goes on to finals. That's not a mistake, obviously, on his part. How do you know where to put the EVs? I use this because it's the best example that I have of why your EVs matter. Is because when it gets to these ranges, 1 point makes a lot of difference. All right, so how do you EV your Pokemon? So the main ways that I want to help you are you compare Pokemon on one team to the other. So we're going to look at VGC speed tiers. So this is like my everything. This is my user manual for VGC. Is I look at this and I see how fast are the Pokemon I'm trying to outrun. In Draft League, you know who you're going to be facing against. So let's look at RTT5. We'll look at a different different league matchup. Let's look at my most recent matchup, which was against a really cool, very talented player, Navier. Our two teams are right here. So when I was building my team, I looked at his team and I looked at, okay, do I want to go faster or not? So Kling Kling, really serious threat. Obviously, I shouldn't say obviously. My thought process was, if I can get Corsola under Trick Room, I win. Unless he's got Sceptile there to beat me. So my thought process was, use Gardevoir to set up Trick Room, have Corsola sweep, and then the rest of my team, like Magmar, etc., is there to stop Sceptile, basically. Kling Kling is his main way of stopping Gardevoir, and it's almost impossible to beat because if I run Focus Sash on Gardevoir, Kling Kling has a 2-hit move, Gear Grind, that ignores Focus Sash and will one-shot. Also invalidates Babiri Berry for the same reason. And then if I try to use Kangaskhan or Pikachu to fake out, Kling Kling can use Max Steel, And then if I try to use like ally switch with Rotom, which I thought was a reasonable idea to do, that's still not great because he can just predict that or target the other Pokemon. And, even in a best case scenario, I'm stuck with Rotom out there. But that was my game plan, was get away where I can set up Trick Room and win. So those are the threats that I focused on. I also was aware that he has a Trick Room mode with Dusknoir or Solrock setting it up, and so and then Spiritomb probably as the sweeper. So I was cognizant of all of that. This is an extremely important part of Draft League, and it's the most fun part for many people. And if you don't like it, you probably shouldn't play Draft League, because this is what Draft League is trying to figure out what are the threats that he's going to build around, or she. Are the threats that this guy's going to build around, and how do I build my team to counter those threats? It's really fun. And so I was looking at Kling Clang. Now, Kling Clang, how fast can Kling Clang go? Because again, if he builds around Kling Clang, I'm probably not going to be able to set up Trick Room. So that's why I said, is there anything? If for whatever reason he didn't bring Kling Clang, first off, he'd be kind of throwing, and second off, I was going to play around Gardevoir, setting up Trick Room for Corsola. So Kling Clang is base 90, it hits 156. If you look at who's base 91 and hits 157, that includes Rotom. But Rotom needs to be absolute max speed in order to outspeed max speed Kling Clang. So what did I do? Absolute max speed Rotom. When you're dealing with Pokemon like this, if you have the faster one and it's important to you to move first, which in this case it is, like I really want to be able to set Reflect before Kling Clang had a chance to attack, and or Volt Switch out. Like I thought that was just extremely important to have this pivoting option. And so I had 252 speed. And then the other states, I'll say. So that also decided my nature for me, because I needed to run Timid or Jolly, but why am I going to run Jolly? I need to run Timid in order to outspeed his Kling Clang if he decided to go max speed. Now, fun true story, because he knew that he can't possibly outspeed Rotom with Kling Clang unless he's Scarf, that means he actually didn't have to invest all that much in speed. But he ended up, and there's another Pokemon on my team, by the way, that also could outspeed Kling Clang with max speed, but Magmar doesn't really have anything to fear from Kling Clang. Kling Clang can't really hurt Magmar very much. And so I was like, I'm not worried about that. So yes, I could have run max speed Magmar to outspeed Kling Clang as well, but I didn't care about that. What I did care about was I wanted to make sure that, if we were in a Trick Room environment, Magmar wouldn't be bad in the Trick Room environment. It's one thing to go second in Trick Room. It's another thing to have wasted EVs and investment on being fast and then have that work against you in Trick Room. So I figured by investing in bulk in Magmar instead, I was going to be okay, even if I had to go second, either because I'm just slower or because I didn't set up Trick Room, or he set up Trick Room against me. So I thought that was important. I didn't have any speed control other than that Trick Room on Gardevoir, and that's also a strategy, although I do have access to Max Strike with Scrappy Kangaskhan. Although who's going to max eject button? That was a spicy tech there. And that's an important thing to know. You don't always have to actually bring speed control into a Draft League matchup. The threat of speed control is often enough. And if you just build bulky enough, sometimes it doesn't really matter if you go first or second. So I needed to get my screens off before the opponent moved, so I did want to go max speed on Rotom. But other than that, I did have, and I did have Choice Scarf. I don't know if you count Scarf as speed control, but I wanted to make sure that, okay, I can get off a very nasty dynamic punch into the Clean Clang. Now, let's talk a little bit more about these numbers. Why did I choose 244, 444? Obviously, you know this, but why did I choose these? So I chose these because if you look at Rotom's stats, it has very low HP. It's got higher defense and special defense. That means that when you're trying to invest in bulk, you want to invest EVs in this. Notice I'm not talking about natures, just EVs. If you have low base HP and high defenses, like a Dusclops or a Dusknoir or Rotom, any of the Rotoms, you want to invest in HP. If you have low defenses but high HP, you want to invest in those defenses. So like a Copperajah should not be 252 HP. It's not helpful. What's helpful is investing in the defenses, especially if you're able to predict which side of the spectrum your opponent will be focusing on. You don't want to over predict on this, by the way. You do not want to over predict. Let me give you an example. So Magmar has really, it's okay special defense, and it's really bad physical defense. And the HP is not very good either. Now, if you look at his team, physical, special, mixed, doesn't really do damage. Physical, special, physical. I mean, to the extent it doesn't need damage at all. And usually physical. So his team ranks more on the physical side. And so I invested more EVs into the physical side. But even if he had gone with special, I was still going to invest more EVs in defense because my defense is so much lower. When it comes to bulk, investing heavily in your lower stat is almost always going to be a good thing. It's like if you got $100 and you had one chance, you had to give it away to someone. Who are you going to choose to give it to? Bill Gates or a homeless guy? Well, the homeless guy. Bill Gates doesn't need the 100. He's already super rich. The homeless guy needs that. That's why Chanseys and Blissies will always invest 252 in defense, not in HP. They might invest some in HP, especially if they don't have any offense to invest into, but you're always going to invest 252 in defense. So same thing here. An exception here, by the way, is my Corsola set because I actually ran Mirror Coat because I wanted to be able to Mirror Coat back if I discovered, because I wasn't gonna use Corsola game one. I was gonna scout out and see what sort of sets the guy was running, and if he was running Special Sceptile, especially if he was focusing around Max Special Sceptile, that's what Mirror Coat and Max HP was for. So normally I do not run sets like this. Also, sets like this are more helpful when you're running Trick Room. Because like 252, 254 makes more sense in Trick Room because usually there's only 4 stats that you'd even want to invest points in. When there's 5 stats that you want to invest points in, you should invest at least a little in all of them, which is why 444 here. The reason why is if I did this instead, that only gets me 1 more HP point. But by dropping this 1, I can put 4 here, and look, I get 2 points, 1 extra in defense, 1 extra in special defense, and all it cost was 1 point in HP. Usually that's worth it. You almost never want to go 252, 252, 4. At worst, you want to go 252, 244, 444. Again, that's different when you have a non-mixed attacker that is Trick Room oriented, because then there really are only 4 stats that you care about. So you can go 252, 252, 4. So here we go. I think we're about ready to watch the thing. So here, I invested heavily in Machamp's speed, but I wanted to make sure 106. So hang on, 59. I'll bet you I can tell who I was trying to outspeed. Oh, I was trying to outspeed max speed Cling Cling, because 106 times 1.5 is 100, is 159, which hilariously is the speed that max speed Magmar could have hit. But what was the point of that? And so I did this so that I was going to feel confident that I could launch my Choice Scarf No Guard Dynamic Punch before he would get a chance to attack. And also, another reason I didn't want to run Max Speed Magmar is because I wanted to be able to do coaching before Magmar got an attack off, because I was running Physical Magmar. Navier told me after the match that he did not expect Physical Magmar. He was expecting Special Magmar. And that's one of the reasons why, even if you're expecting, right here, like, even if you're expecting him to go fully physical, you don't want to ignore the special side, because, or vice versa, because people can run mixed sets, people can run different. There's often a lot of value, especially if your team leans really heavily in one direction, or the team you'd be expected to leans heavily in one direction, in going the other way. You know, your Skunk Tank. Maybe you should think about building it special. Nidoking is almost always a special attacker because of sheer force, life force. But hey, you know what? Maybe physical. Corsola actually has a better special attack than physical attack, although they're both trash. So maybe in playoffs, if I bring it, maybe I won't be this hustle physical attacker. Maybe I'll use special Corsola. Probably not going to run special Kangaskhan, right? But Magmar, one of the greatest assets of Magmar is you don't know if it's going to be physical or special. One last thing with Eviolite Pokemon, every 2 points you give them in a physical defense or special defense stat turns into 3 due to Eviolite. That's not the case for HP. So for Pokemon that have kind of balanced stats, that are Eviolite users, you want to lean more towards those defensive stats than the HP, because you'll get more bang for the buck. Magmar has such low HP, I still had to invest a lot. Oh, and one last thing. With a Life Orb user, you want to make sure that your HP value ends as close as possible to a multiple of 10 without actually reaching the multiple of 10. So if you have 161 HP, let's say, or even 160, every time you use Life Orb, you're going to lose 16 HP. If you have 159, every time you use an attack and use Life Orb, you're going to lose 15. So the poke with 160, after the first use, you're down to 144 HP. After the second, you're down to 128. Here, you're down to 144 HP after one use and 129 after 2 uses. So having less HP paradoxically ends up being good for your longevity. So that's why I always try to end with my HP stats as close as possible to the multiple of 10. Again, without reaching a multiple of 10. Just a little optimization. That's about all that I've got for here. Yeah, I think everything makes sense. Again, 252, 252, 4 is fine for Trick Room Pokemon. You should probably never use it otherwise. There's one other factor to this, which is Nature's. But we'll get to that. There's another example that I can use later. So anyway, let's see how these matches went. We're going to go into RTT match replays in my Discord, and I am one of the most recent. Yep. So only 2 matches. So you'll see how this matters. Okay, so anyway, I say, wowzer, didn't expect this team. I was really thinking Regice. Oh, that's the main reason why I went Physical Magmar, by the way. Even though he has an Intimidate Pokemon. Is I went Physical Magmar because Regice has like 200, it literally has 200 special defense. So if you're worried about Regice, then, well, you should probably attack it physically. Anyway, so Stoutland does not Intimidate, and that ends up not being a good idea. I think he ran Scrappy to hit Rotom, but that was a mistake. So anyway, so here we go. Dynamax, he protects. Rain Dance, here comes coaching. Now, I don't fault him for this protect because, like, it makes sense that I would go into the Stoutland, but yeah. So after turn 1, like, he's not in great shape. Okay, so he's got String Shot, which is good. Max Dragon, holy cow. So he did not go with support Stoutland. This is not support. This is kill people Stoutland. So he max guards correctly, seeing that I'm going to fake out into the Stoutland to kill it. Remember, by the way, just a common thing to forget, fake out does not fail into Dynamax Pokemon, right? It just doesn't flinch him. I would have absolutely killed. So I'm already out of Dynamax, and holy cow, that's so much damage. Look at that. I'm +1 defense. You see why investing in my physical defense was so important? That did 70%. If I had no physical bulk and was just relying on Eviolite, and I had been max speed, max attack, I would have fainted to that. I can probably pull up that calc. Stoutland, he was Life Orb, he was 252. And let's go Magmar, blank set. And we'll even give it Eviolite. 50, 50, and he had, it's a Stomping Tantrum. Stomping Tantrum. Holy cow, yeah, look. Max Quake. Also, by the way, FYI, when you're doing damage calcs, always make sure you're calcing at 50. Attacks do more damage at level 50 than they do at level 100, generally speaking. So if you look at this, if I have no bulk whatsoever, max Quake, I was at +1. Yeah, not +2. I was at +1. Minimum does 95%. Minimum. It did 70. That's why, and just look at this. Look at the damage go down. I think I invested 100. Do you see the value? Just these 100 EVs turns it from, some, usually kills to this never kills. This never kills. And then I had a certain amount of HP as well. I think I had like 100 something HP. And yeah. So I got a reasonably favorable roll too. How much HP did I have? 92. 92 and 100. Yeah. Did it really only do 70? He must not have been. Was he not max attack? Oh. Yeah, so I'm only +1, yeah. Oh, and then, yeah. So, yeah, some boosted mass flares, they hurt, yeah. Yeah. So he does 70%. And I'm 92 and 100. So, so that also hurt him. He must not have been adamant. He must have been jolly. Yeah, there you go. So that's where his nature hurt him a lot. And he said he really wanted to make sure he outsped max speed, or speed tied with max speed, but not modest or jolly. He expected fast Magmar, but then he didn't even need to because he had string shot for speed control. So anyway, so because of that, it only does that much damage. When you saw, if I had EV differently, if he had nature differently, that's an easy OHKO, even when I'm at +1 defense. So also shows the value of coaching, right? So yeah, so we do that, and he doesn't kill me, and because of that, not only do I get the easy kill on him, but I just one-shot his Spiritomb, and his Spiritomb doesn't get to do anything. Also, that Spiritomb was really freaking slow because I was at 0.4 speed, but he went dead minimum speed to match my Corsola. So he credit to him, he completely saw that I was planning on bringing Corsola. He would have felt really stupid at team preview if he had seen that I didn't have it, but I did. I thought it would be really good in his team, and if he didn't have Sceptile, unfortunately, we're going to see that this is physical Sceptile, so it didn't matter. But yeah. So boom, boom, boom. So also see if you can get the pattern for the nicknames, like Net, Nuke, Gnaw, Nail. Like obviously they start with an N, but like what do they have in common? Anyway, and then game 2, I'm on the other side. He does bring the Kling Klang, so it's a nice when you build against something and yeah, at least helpful traces of overgrow. So I do the fake out, and I didn't expect this to go well, and it didn't. I was not able to stop it, but yeah, whatever. So here comes Magmar, and yeah, Sceptile didn't do very well there. But I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate that woo, that I had the eject button, and Corsola comes in and just eats this. So this was not a great decision, by the way. If you're bringing a hustle Pokemon, don't max anything else. But I was in such a bad situation. I knew I couldn't bring Corsola straight out when Sceptile was right there. So yeah. Then here we go with the Protect. And there goes Sceptile. And so now Corsola has a chance. And at this point he knows that I'm physical, so he is prioritizing these steel spikes. But and there's the ally switch. Spiritomb does survive. There's Head Smash, it does nothing. And Spiritomb uses Shadow Ball, and Corsola survives. You remember? Do you remember how I didn't just do 252 special or HP, but I put 4 into special defense? This was literally 1 HP, by the way. Honestly, it may or may not have been a good thing, because I would have enjoyed Kangaskhan coming in, getting the free fake out into Spiritomb that would have killed it. But yeah. And as it turns out, oh my gosh, his Kling Klang was slower than my Magmar. But that's also because he assumed that I was going to be able to outspeed, and he didn't keep me honest by investing some speed in his Kling Klang. That's a trade-off that everyone has to make when they're building. If you're the slower one, do you invest any speed at all to keep the opponent honest, or do you just trust that they're going to outspeed and you invest in bulk instead? If you notice, Kling Klang was bulky. With the Akaberry, it took, 24%? 21% from my Max Flare. Max Adamant attack Max Flare, by the way. So, but yeah, and then here comes Stoutland, and correctly, of course, Stoutland protects out the sun. Stomping Tantrum does not get the kill. Magmar dies, but Corsola somehow hits 3 times. I think twice in this match. No, yeah, 3 times. Corsola too strong. Anyway, so there's that. There's one more thing I want to look at, and that is when it comes to natures. So we're going to just pretend we're building for this, and we're going to build with 2 Tangelas. So Tangela, I love. Tangela, I used it in 3 separate leagues. All redeemed the trash leagues. Got me 2nd place season 1, 2nd place season 2, and rescued my season and got me to 2nd place regular season, season 4. It's fantastic. And it is a great example of how natures matter. So, if you look at these stats, yes, you get EVLA, but these stats are whack. Tangela can take so many physical hits. It's like got Zamazenta level bulk. If you fully invest in physical bulk, look at this. Let's do this, and we'll say 4, 4, 4. If you invest with a bold nature, which is plus defense minus attack, Look at that. That's 182 plus half again with Eviolite. So let's look at Tangela, NU, physical wall. Let's go 252. Let's just go for it. And we can do that. Let's look at Zamaz. Well, let's see how much Zamazenta max Zamazenta does. 45%. Let's look at Zacian. Oh no, sorry. Zacian Crown. That doesn't have it. Look at 252 and +1. Behemoth Blade. 52 to 61%. And that's max adamant. Oh, that's +2. Sorry. So if we just have normal, yeah, +1. It doesn't even two-shot. It's a 3-hit KO. It's not resisted. That's just how good Tangela is. The easiest thing to do is to see this special stat and be like, holy cow, this is not where I need it. Let me invest more. And let's actually change the nature so we get a boost there. So let's say that we want to invest. Let's say we want to invest as much as we can. In fact, let's even invest a little more. Well, no, let's say about here. This seems perfectly reasonable, right? Let's go here. Okay. Maybe you invest this much. I mean, this seems reasonable, right? Okay, so let's say we want to make sure we hit that 84 stat and 172 HP, which makes sense. So we'll invest all there, and we hit 84 here, correct? So what happens if we instead invest more EVs, and then we just max this out and make this bold? What do you think the difference is going to be? Look at this. Look at this. Don't look at the bars. Look just at the numbers. Do you see a difference? Make this one shiny to make it obvious. Look at this. Look at this. Do you see the difference? This Tangela has 7 extra stat points in physical defense for no cost whatsoever. None. The reason why is that your nature gives you a 10% boost to the stat points you had before you had the nature. Right here, we have 143. And so by going plus, we increase that by 14. Here, I can put it here. Here, we were at 77. We're going to get +7. So it's 10%, but it's not rounded up. +7. Notice, by the way, we did this. And we do this, we're actually going to get +8. So it's less bad. It's still pretty bad when you compare it to what you could have had if you had just done a plus nature in your best stat. So when it comes to choosing natures, if you're choosing speed and you absolutely need a plus nature to hit a certain speed set that's important, like with my Rotom, which I didn't even bring, if you need that, then go for it. Other than that, you should almost always be putting your nature in your highest stat. Again, not your highest base stat, because say you want to run a really offensive Tangela set, which is, that's something you can do. And you want to go all out in special attack. This is going to get you +13, and this is going to get you +15. So, depending on how much you're investing in it already, maybe your special attack is going to be less. By the way, Tangela Chlorophyll Sweeper, not too shabby. Okay? We can go back to this. It was, what was it? Yeah. So definitely, when you're doing your natures, again, unless you're trying to get your speed up for whatever reason, you always want your nature to be boosting your highest stat as far as your stat points go. You would only break this if for some reason you just absolutely needed the extra boost. But practically speaking, in Draft League, especially because in Draft League you usually don't really know exactly what they're going to bring, you're kind of just wanting the best overall that you can do. Put your boosting nature on your biggest stat. Again, unless you're trying to hit a speed tier, put your boosting nature on your biggest stat. Put your reducing nature on the stat you're not using. For mixed attackers, by the way, like if you're running knockoff and energy ball, which is, plausible at least. For mixed attackers, you can put the minus nature on your worst stat if you want to, or the one you're expecting to use the least, or the one you're expecting to get the least use out of. So I hope this helped you to see a little bit of how to build for draft leagues. Again, I'm not an expert, and when I win games, it's not just because I'm like somehow. It's not because I'm somehow better than anyone else. Let's say this. Like in those matches I showed you, like a single critical hit and I'm done. Or even that match I showed at the beginning against Jay, like I needed to hit a 1 out of 16 range in order to get that knockout. Like that's luck. I did not skillfully do that. However, when I put all those EVs into special attack and I made sure I was modest, um, I put myself in a position where I would be able to receive that luck. And that's all you can do in draft league is you can't control whether you win or lose. All you can do is control how good of a position you put yourself into to win based on the luck you receive. And if you can't handle that, by the way, then don't play Pokemon. Don't play poker either. Don't play Monopoly. Don't play, honestly, any game that has any amount of luck. Because you can never control whether or not you win a game like that. You can only control whether or not you put yourself in a position to win the game. And that's why I try to do when I'm building. I don't try to make sure I win the game when I'm building, and I don't try to make sure I win the game when I'm playing. I just try to make sure I'm putting myself in the best possible position to win if everything goes right. And you will lose a lot of games in Draft League or anything, but you'll also win more than you would have had you not prepared quite as well. So these are things I've learned. Obviously, I came up with like zero of this. I learned from a lot of other people about team building, and hopefully this is helpful to someone. But I appreciate you for spending your time. I hope you watched this video sped up, and have a good day.